Yes, hello everybody. Welcome to the live stream today. We're going to be talking about how to structure your meals for fat loss. We're going to cover my calorie deficit formula. Then we're going to go over like one of my favorite macro ratios, protein, fats, and carbs, how to work those out. Then we'll go over the calorie to protein ratio and why that's so important. You want to eat high protein, relatively low calorie. And then we'll give a whole bunch of examples of different meal structures. I've been getting a lot of questions like that. I have a lot of videos doing really well on Instagram and TikTok. I had a couple go really viral, and people constantly ask me, Mike, how exactly do I structure the meals? How exactly should I eat? And that's going to be the general theme of this live stream. Once we go through a couple of basic rules, because you have to get into a calorie deficit to lose weight. So first I want to cover that. It'll be a little bit of a repeat for people who show up every single Sunday, which I really appreciate. And then we'll just break everything down. Should be a lot of fun. Let's see. I'm going to pull in and make sure my messages are working. I had a little bit of a trouble today getting the whole thing started. I had to reboot the whole computer. So hopefully we didn't lose anyone, and hopefully everyone is here to ask the questions and to have a lot of fun. So let's jump right into it. Just give me a thumbs up from anybody, just to let me know that everything is working okay with the reboot. Let me clean my glasses a little bit better. I just fogged these babies up. All right, that looks pretty good. Okay, let's jump into it. We got a bunch of people here already, which is nice. Okay, we got a thumbs up. I'm not seeing the comments though, but we got some thumbs up, so I guess everything is working good. Okay, let's go over. I know this is a repeat for a lot of people who show up every single week, but I can't just do a presentation about how to structure your meals for fat loss without talking about getting into a calorie deficit. Because even if you're eating good foods and you're eating whole natural foods and you're eating the optimal ratio of protein, fats, and carbs, but if you're eating too much, if you're in a positive energy balance, you're not going to lose weight no matter what you do, pretty much. So let's first go over how I like to put people into a calorie deficit. Hey, Patel, thanks for showing up. Hey, Mike, just made it, watching from London. Oh, cool. Yeah, I started kind of right on time today. I want to be able to watch the football games later today. I know the Jets are playing the the Eagles. The Eagles are a good team. We'll see how it goes. Then I got friends coming over at 6 o'clock. Plus today, this is my OMAD day, so I haven't even walked yet. I've just been drinking. I've been drinking a lot of Pellegrino water today, and I'm gonna fast all day, and then I'll break my fast at 4:20 when the football game starts, and then that'll be my eating window. I think that works great for football Sunday. You just eat when the football game is on. You eat, kind of have fun, and then you just stop eating. So that should be. I think that's a perfect OMAD Sunday day, unless you want to watch multiple games. Hey, Raquel, thanks for showing up. Face red heart shape. Oh, cool. Thanks so much. So you gave me a little heart there. I appreciate it. And we got Jeff here, which is really nice. Hey, good morning, Jeff. Mike, I've got my tangerine herbal tea ready to go. Oh, thanks. That sounds great. Okay, so let's get into it. I know you've heard this before, but if you're new, you might find it interesting. My favorite calorie deficit formula. It's somewhat aggressive, but after experimenting with all different numbers over, I've been doing this for 40 years, as you know. I'm an exercise physiologist certified by the American College of Sports Medicine. I've owned the gym for 37 years, and I've experimented with so many different calorie deficits to get people to lose weight. I like 10, 11 times your body weight. I think that's the ideal calorie deficit. Obviously, if you're incredibly active, that might not be enough. Like, for example, when my son was running in college, he's running 70 or 80 miles a week. This is a general formula for most people living like a normal, relatively active lifestyle, I think. 10, 11 times your body weight. Hey, I'm 40, need help losing fat. This will be good for you, Rava, for sure. You're going to like this. So take your body weight. Let's say you weigh 175 pounds. You're going to multiply that by 10 or 11. So I think a nice calorie deficit for someone 175 pounds is 1,750 calories a day. That should put you in a nice calorie deficit. And people are always asking me, how quickly can I lose the weight, Mike? Well, if you're brand new to putting yourself into a calorie deficit, let's say you haven't dieted in a while, you'll lose a good amount of weight initially, like the first week or so. You're going to lose 2, 3, maybe 4 pounds even, just because you're going to lose some water weight. You're going to decrease those glycogen stores in your muscle and your liver. But typically, I like to say to people, a very realistic goal is to lose 1% of your body weight per week consistently from a nice calorie deficit without starving yourself. So for example, if you're 175 pounds, maybe the first week, you may lose 3 pounds or so, maybe even more, because you're depleting a little water weight with body fat. But going forward after that, say you lose 1.7 pounds a week is a great goal, very obtainable. If you're 200 pounds, maybe you can lose 200 pounds a week. If you're a petite gal who weighs 150, who wants to weigh like 125, you lose 1.5 pounds a week. And that's really realistic. There's going to be plateaus along the way, and I have techniques for getting over that. I talk about this a lot in my 12-week elite coaching program. You know, check that out if you're interested in working with me online, one-on-one. I go into this in great detail. Okay. But for example, what maintenance calories would be if you weigh 175 pounds, I would multiply your body weight by 15, which is about 2,625 calories. So when you're eating 1,750 and you weigh 175 pounds, you're in a nice calorie deficit. You're in close to 800-900 calories in a deficit. I like that. I think that's a great ideal deficit to be in. Let's see if we got some other questions. I'm 6'1", 225. So Ravi, based on this formula, I'd probably want you to eat 2,250 calories per day. But you see, as we go through this slide presentation, I may want you to be more aggressive by cycling your calories. We're going to talk about that in the next slide. I find it hard to eat a lot of protein. I'm Italian, so carbs are everywhere. Same here. I'm Italian too, Rava, and I totally hear what you're saying. But you're going to like this presentation, because the key to this presentation, you'll see, like I talked about in the first slide, we're going to go over like the importance of protein. The protein calorie ratio is key, I think, to taking enough protein while keeping calories under control. We're also going to talk about the protein leverage hypothesis, which is all, I mean, hopefully I'm going to get through to you in this, and you're going to start cutting back on the carbs, and you're going to start upping your protein. Let's see, Jeff. My body's been stuck bouncing between 220, 225 for a while. I know, you know, I'm not sure exactly what you're doing, Jeff, so just let me know, and then I'll give you some tips on that, what I think you should do. But it happens. You know, there is something to the set point theory of weight loss, you know, where people feel like you get stuck at these certain weights and it takes a little while to break through. But like we talked about in the past, there's so many different things you can do. You can do something extreme, right? Like extremely restrict calories, do like an alternate day fast for a week, where you're fasting every other day. Maybe it's time for a diet break, Jeff. I'm not sure where you're at. Maybe you want to up your calories for a week or two, boost your metabolism a little bit. But if you work, I would probably just stick to just like really just fine-tuning the diet, making sure you're eating a good amount of protein, you know, staying in a nice calorie deficit. But if you've been in one for a month or two, you might want to take a break. Hey, Rita's here. Thanks for showing up, Rita. Hey, Mike, I learned so much from your talk, so I appreciate you showing up. Rita's been showing up every Sunday or whenever I go live, even on Instagram, which I really appreciate it. Thanks, Rita. Okay, so we got the general formula, so you know if you weigh 175 pounds, if you're just like a normal active person, your energy balance, your maintenance calories is going to be probably around 2,600. So if you go 1,750, 10 times your body weight, even 11 times your body weight if you're working out all the time, you're going to be in a nice calorie deficit. Okay, now this may have to do with Rava. I'm not sure. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. I always tell people that if you do have a lot of weight to lose, let's say you're 250 and you want to weigh 200, you got like 50 pounds to lose. If you got to lose more than 40, 50 pounds, I probably would be more aggressive. You don't have to, but I probably would multiply your goal weight by 10 or 11. So for example, if you weigh 250 pounds, but you really want to weigh 175, you're literally 75 pounds overweight, and you really want to make a big change in your life, you might want to multiply your goal weight by 10 or 11. I gave the example here of multiplying it by 11, so you eat 1,925 calories. And that's a technique that I use all the time, or a strategy with people who have to lose a lot of weight. I like to do both. I'd like to multiply their body weight by 10 one day. So for example, this person would eat 2,500 calories one day if you weigh 250. But then the next day, multiply your goal weight by 10. So you would eat 1,750 calories. So Rav, if you're 225, maybe one day you want to eat 2,250 calories. But then the next day, whatever your goal weight is, so 6'1", maybe you want to be 200, maybe you want to be 195 at 6'1". And then maybe one day you eat 2,250, the next day you eat about 1,900. I like the idea of cycling calories too. The research is a little mixed on it, but I think that it's a lot easier to stick to a diet when some days you eat more, some days you eat less. Plus, I think it's great for metabolic adaptation. Right, whenever you lose weight, your metabolism slows down. But if you over-exaggerate your calorie restriction, you can get an over-exaggeration of metabolic adaptation. But this particular strategy, you're always in a calorie deficit. Just some days you're eating more, some days you're eating less. I do this a lot with other clients too, who don't want to be as aggressive. You can also cycle out of a calorie deficit and then cycle into a calorie deficit. I hope you're following me on this. So for example, let's say you weigh, thanks Rosie, my dearly beloved just bought me some espresso, which I love. So let's say you're 250 pounds, right? And you want to lose weight, but you don't want to be too aggressive. You can actually eat 2,500 calories one day. That's your calorie deficit day. But the next day, you may want to cycle out of a calorie deficit. Say you want to go to maintenance calories, which will be like 3,200 calories. I like that too. If you go from maintenance to deficit, you never really have to take a diet break. It's good for your metabolism, but you're going to lose weight a little bit more slowly. But if you stay in a calorie deficit, even with cycling, I probably would want you to take a diet break every 6 weeks just to minimize the plateaus. But it's all about calories, and when you're going to see my big two things are calories and protein. It's all about calories and protein when it comes to losing weight and maintaining an optimal weight. But you'll see, I have so many meal examples later on, but I just want to preface this. Like, for example, if people come to this live stream later on and they just see me showing meals, people can criticize me. Mike, what are you talking about? I mean, you have to be in a calorie deficit to lose weight. So first I wanted to make sure that whatever we talk about, even with meal structure, you have to be in a calorie deficit. I mean, you can do it with intermittent fasting and time-restricted eating by giving yourself a smaller eating window, because most people should eat so much less if they don't want to count calories. But in this presentation, I wanted to talk about calories first. Sounds good. Okay. What is a quick protein source if you're not hungry, if you're not a huge fan of meat? You know, it's interesting. I get a lot of questions from vegans and vegetarians all the time. First of all, if you are a meat eater, so I'm assuming when you mean meat, you mean all animal protein, or just mean red. If you just mean red meat, then it's easy. You know, chicken, fish, poultry, pork, you know, whatever you want. If you don't even eat any animal protein, you know, you can get it. I think dairy is a great source. I mean, you know, like the Greek yogurt, what we're going to talk about in this presentation, really good protein to calorie ratio. I'm not a big fan of that's what we're going to talk about a lot, when you have to take in a lot of calories to meet your protein requirements. I'm not against those plant meats. I've got one vegan client, I've been working with him, I don't know, maybe 3 years now. His big thing was he just wasn't taking in enough protein. So first I supplemented him his diet with like plant protein powders, a pea, rice protein, things like that, combination. I like the Garden of Life plant protein. I think it's a real good one. You know, hemp seed protein, I think it's really good. But now, over the last maybe year and a half, he started eating a lot of those plant meats, and he loves them. I know when you look at them, sometimes there's a lot of chemicals and this and that in the packages, but you got to look around. There's more and more versions of it. I just trained him actually on Wednesday of last week, and he said, Mike, I found the best one so far. It's made out of mushrooms, and when you look at the ingredients, it's a very short ingredient list. It's mostly just mushrooms, and they ferment them, so they enhance the protein out of them. So I would consider that. You know, maybe some of those plant meats, I'd experiment with that. See, I'm not a big fan of like the quinoa and you know, the rice and the beans, because we're going to talk about it in pretty good detail. The protein to calorie ratio is not that great. The whole key for protein is you're going to get fat with protein, but you want a relatively moderate amount of calories with a high amount of protein. That's the key for good sources of protein. That's why I lean more towards the lean meats. The only time I would want like a high fat content with the protein sources for the omega-3s. And I think the omega-3s are just incredible for you. Great for brain health. Great for reducing inflammation in the body. So you'll see in a lot of my pictures, I do eat a lot of salmon, and I do eat a lot of sardines and like fish eggs. I do all things like that. So the protein, the calorie ratio may not be as good as like a lean cut of meat, or like buffalo, bison, who's like really, really lean protein, but I want the omega-3s. And you're going to see with the macro ratio splits that I like, most of your calories, in my opinion, should come from fat, as long as it's whole natural sources of fat. Meaning, like, you're not just adding junk fat to your diet. You're getting your fat from your meat. You're getting your fat from your salmon, from your sardines, from your avocados, from your whole eggs. And eggs is another one too, Rava, which is great. I would definitely, if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, let me know, Rava. I'm assuming that's it. I like eggs. Even egg whites is fine, but I think whole pasture-raised eggs are just great. That's another great source. You know, every egg's about 6-7 grams of protein, depending upon the size. You know, like you can do something like a 4-egg omelet, which will give you 24 grams of protein. Then you supplement it with a Greek yogurt, which will give you 15. Now you're at 40. And you know, that's a nice number for a meal. I like to stay between 30 and 65 grams of protein per meal. I lean more towards 60, 65, because I want to eat 150 grams of protein a day. Okay, so we got this calorie deficit, right? We know how to get into a calorie deficit now. You can use your normal weight, you can use your goal weight, you can cycle if you want to. It makes it a little bit easier. Hey Jesus, what's cooking? Let's see. You ignited my new eating routine. 2 meals, fast for 2 weeks straight. Thank you. Oh, thanks so much. That's great. I'm glad you're doing great. Lugo. That's a cool last name. Lugo. I like that name. That's nice. Okay, let's see what we got. Always, okay, this is the main thing. You always have to eat enough protein. It's key. I just watched another YouTube video of this like doctor. I should have his name in my head because I really like the video. He really dug deep into all the research. And all the research really is leading now. Like the RDA recommended amount of protein, what is 0.8 grams per kilogram, which is like nothing. If you're working out, if you're active, plus if you're getting older, you really have to eat a lot more protein. What I think would be the ideal amount of protein is if you know what your lean body mass is, like if you really know what your body fat is. But it's really hard to determine that unless you're doing one of those DEXA scans. We used to, when I was going to school for this stuff, we used to weigh people underwater and see what they weigh. We can get a real accurate calculation of body fat. You know, those electrical impedance scales, when you step on a scale, it sends like a mild electric current from one foot to the next and kind of estimates your body fat. They're really not that accurate. The only good thing about those scales, I always say this, is that they're consistently inaccurate. So at least you have a baseline to go by. But 0.9 grams of protein per pound of lean body weight would probably be ideal. I know that's really hard to go by, so I like to just tell people multiply your body weight by 0.7, and that's a good amount of grams of protein a day. Let me give you an example. Let's do it for Ralph here. So let's say he's let me pull up my calculator. I know I got it on my phone somewhere here. Let me see, where did my calculator go? There we go. Let's go like 225 times 0.7. What's that give us? That's 160 grams of protein a day. So that's how much protein I'd want you to have. If you're really, really overweight, once again, let's say you're 300 pounds and your goal weight is 200, I think you can calculate your protein based on your goal weight. But the key about the protein is, even when you're doing those lower calorie days, you don't want to cut back on protein. You can reduce your carbohydrates, you can reduce your fats, but you always want to keep your protein there for multiple reasons. First of all, when you're losing weight, the more protein, when you eat an adequate amount of protein, I hate to even say high protein. In my opinion, this is an adequate amount of protein is going to help you maintain your muscle mass when you're losing weight. Also, I talk about this all the time too, the thermic effect of protein out of all the macronutrients, and your 3 macros are protein, fats, and carbs, right? There's a highest thermic effect, meaning that you're going to burn up 20, 25, 30, somewhere around there % of those calories just digesting and processing the protein. So let's say you have 200 calories worth of protein. You probably have more. You're going to burn up 40. You're going to burn up so much. What's 10% would be 20. You're going to burn up maybe 60 calories just digesting and processing. It creates heat within the body, the protein. So if someone ate 2,000 calories of a low protein diet and someone ate 2,000 calories of, say, a higher protein diet, the net calories are going to be considerably less for the people who eat protein. So just switching over to more protein, not only will it help you maintain your muscle mass, right? And if you put on muscle protein synthesis, if you're working out and you want to, plus it's going to you can almost look at it like it's going to boost your metabolism a little bit, because there is more. The body has to work harder digesting and processing the protein. So you can go into a calorie deficit just from eating more protein, even if you keep the calories the same. So that's a key thing, like super, super important. Can you use goal weight to calculate protein? Yes. If you have, like for example, if you want to weigh, say you're 225, you want to weigh 190, yes, I think you can go 190. Let's say you want like 6'1", let's go 190 times 0.7. Yeah, it's 133. I think you can go more, right? But 133 is really easy to hit. Like I'm only in my 160s. I take in 150 every day. I think you can go over. There's a couple of books I really love. One of my favorite diet books is the PE Diet. Dr. Ted, is it Needleman? I think it's Needleman is how you pronounce his name. I love his book. He eats like 200 grams of protein a day. These carnivore guys go real heavy. I don't think there's really any downside to going even considerably high, even going like what bodybuilders do, 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. Some bodybuilders go 1.5 grams per pound of body weight. People say, oh, it's stressful on the kidneys. I mean, if you're healthy, have normal kidney function, I don't even think that's an issue. You just may not use it all, and then it just becomes excess calories, right? So, but I think 0.7 either with goal weight, normal weight. So you rev anywhere between, say, 130 to, say, 160 grams of protein. And a general rule is, every 4 ounces of chicken, fish, or meat is about 25 grams. I know you're not a big on the meat eaters. You're going to have to get it with those plant meats, with the eggs, with the dairy, things like that. And a little bit of quinoa is okay, as long as you're staying within your calorie limits. Like I said, okay, always keep protein up. So we got this thing down. So you pretty much have to reduce carbs and fat on those lower calorie days. So you're going to go I think 140 is good. Really, that's even if you don't eat meat, I think you can really hit 140. But you probably want to get a protein powder too, like a plant-based protein powder, something like that as well. Okay, let's go. So did we get the protein? Yeah. Now on the mat. This is the mat. You know, I know there's a lot of flexibility here, but if I had to just if someone asked me, and people ask me this all the time, and in my 12-week coaching program, I go into this in really, really great detail. I'm going to be talking about my coaching program a little bit more and more of these live streams because I have like 6 spots left. So if you're a guy over 50 and you want to get into amazing shape, and you want to lose some weight, and you want the ideal workout routine, you want a ton of accountability, we do one-on-one calls like this constantly. There's also a group component to it. You know, click the link below this video and we can set up a video call and we can talk about it. So if I had to just come up with like one macro ratio that I like, I would say, first of all, protein about 30%. Now I'll give myself an example. Say I want 150 grams of protein, 4 calories per gram, so I'm taking in 600 calories of protein. Now I do want energy to work out, and I'm somewhat fat adapted, but I eat a relatively low carb diet. See, I keep my protein and carbs even. I like that macro ratio. So 30% protein, 30% carbs. So I'd be taking in 600 calories of protein, 600 calories of carbohydrates. That's 1,200 calories. Maintenance for me is about 2,200. So if I took in 1,000 calories, like 40% of my diet from fats, I like that ratio. I'd stick to that a lot. But I also like if someone comes to me with metabolic dysfunction, say they have, say they're pre-diabetic, maybe their A1C is like above 5.7, maybe they may have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, things like that. Maybe they're, really have a lot of weight to lose. I'll probably put them on more of a lower calorie, a lower carb macro. Maybe I'll still go 30% protein because I want to keep the protein high, but I'll probably go 20% carbs, and then I'll probably go even more fat. And when I say fat, like I say, I don't mean like a ketogenic diet, and I don't mean trying to add fat to your diet, like putting like butter in your coffee, and I don't mean like putting mayonnaise on everything, and I don't mean you using a lot of seed oils or doing things fried. When you eat a whole natural food diet, and that's my favorite diet, you're gonna get most of your calories from fat. Like even when you're going with lean cuts of meat, and then with the salmon and the sardines, and you're eating an avocado, which is loaded with monounsaturated fat, and say you're sauteing your vegetables in extra virgin olive oil, and maybe use a little bit of avocado oil, maybe a little bit of butter. A little bit of butter goes a long way for flavor. And if you started tracking everything, say you're using MyFitnessPal or whatever app you're using, you're going to see probably 40-50% of your calories are coming from fat, and it's a good thing. I think it's a great thing. You just don't, you don't want to be too high, you don't want to be too low. Traditionally, more of a bodybuilding diet went very low fat. I did that for years. My triglycerides were actually higher, which is so crazy because excess carbohydrates increase triglycerides. So if I had to go with my ideal, if you're an active workout person and your metabolic health is good, like you're not pre-diabetic, you're not really obese, anything like that, I like 30-30-40. Remember the old zone diet, 40-40-30? That was a little bit more carbs. I like 30-30-40. That would be my favorite macro ratio. Thanks for this, Mike. Love your channel. Oh, thanks, Dave. I appreciate it. Let's see, geez, okay. I have a sedentary office job. How do I calculate my maintenance calories to better modify my calorie intake? I think if you have a sedentary job, I think 15 times your body weight is a good calculation for maintenance calories. I mean, you could use one of those online calculators too, which can give you a little bit more, can ask a lot more questions, but it's still an estimate. I find 15 times your body weight is a good estimate. So if you want to tell me your weight, I can figure it out for you. But let's just say you weigh 150. I'm just going to make a number up. Times that by 15, that's 2,250 calories. You can go, it might be a little bit less if you're really sedentary. Could be 13, 14. And all these numbers, like even though I talk about it all the time, 10, 11 times your body weight, it's really an experiment. Like the best thing you can possibly do, and I just recently did a video on it, is track everything for a couple of weeks. Use MyFitnessPal, put in all the food you're normally eating. It's really easy to do. Once you get used to it, it's really bop, bop, bop. It's really quick. See how many calories you're eating over like a 2-week period. Are you gaining or are you losing weight? If you're not gaining or losing any weight, those are your maintenance calories. It may not be 15 times, could be 14 times, could be 16 times, hard to say. You know, if you are losing weight, you say, oh, I must be in a calorie deficit. If you're gaining weight, then you know you're in a positive energy balance, right? I always say once in your life, minimally, I like to say you should do it like at least once a year for a few weeks, or maybe once every 6 months. Track everything. It's so incredibly eye-opening to see where your calories are coming from. In the recent short video I did, you know, I gave the example, like say you're at maintenance calories. Let's say your maintenance calories are 2,500 calories, right? You're tracking everything. You're not gaining, you're losing. And then you decide you're going to increase your diet by 1 donut a day. And say that donut is only 200 calories. You know, there are other donuts that are much more than that. Let's say it's just a plain donut you buy at the supermarket, right? The box of donuts, you eat a donut, small donut, 200 calories. You will be 20 pounds heavier by the end of the year. Is that crazy? Every 100 calories above maintenance is 10 pounds a year if you do it every day. It can get a little more complicated than that. And yes, there are hormonal issues and, you know, the thermic effect of food. I picked a donut because it's only carbohydrates and fat, to give the example. It's not like protein. If you had an extra 200 calories of protein, you probably wouldn't be 20 pounds heavy because the thermic effect plus protein synthesis. But when it comes to fat and carbs, if you just ate 200 calories over maintenance with like a junk food type of food, like a donut, you'll be 20 pounds heavier at the end of the year. That's why you got to track things. When you just grab like 2 Oreo cookies, you don't even remember eating them. 2 Oreo cookies, like 140, 100, that's 15 pounds a year if you consistently do that over maintenance. So you have to track at one time just to see where your calories are coming from, and then you can make adjustments. Let's see. Okay. A 290 brother face, you know, you 290, okay, so 290. So 290, a 290, say 29 times 15. Your maintenance is probably over 4,000, but hard to say. I would, you know, in your case, Jesus, I would use your goal weight to calculate everything. Whatever you'd like to weigh. Use your goal weight to calculate calories, and use your goal weight to calculate protein. And you can do it. You just got to get started. But if you want to track everything for a couple of weeks just to see where you're at, you know, maybe at that weight you may have some metabolic issues. Maybe you're insulin resistant. Maybe you're leptin resistant. Insulin resistant just means that it's harder for your body to control blood sugar. Maybe you're A1C. Maybe you're a little pre-diabetic. Maybe you got high cholesterol, high blood pressure, things like that. So in your case, when it comes to the macros, I would probably put you on more of a lower carb diet, maybe 20% of your calories from carbohydrates, 30% from protein, maybe 50% from fat. But like we say, healthy fats. I wouldn't want you eating like, you know, those like oxidized seed oils, and I wouldn't want you eating. I'm not even a big believer. I don't think a lot of saturated fat is good. And some people don't think it's a concern. I wouldn't put you on a lot of saturated fat. I want most of your fats coming from the whole natural food you're eating, no processed food, no junk. You know, monounsaturated fats from olive oil and avocados, things like that. But I would probably put you on a more of a low carb and use your goal weight to calculate your protein and your calorie deficit. And then every 6 weeks, take a diet break. Oh, great. Hey, Tiffany, thanks for showing up. That's great. Goodness. I got to start tracking. Yes, Stephanie, track everything. It's so, especially if you've never done it, it's so eye-opening. It's interesting because even like little things, like even when I saute my vegetables, I have all these rules. I talk about this in my coaching program. Even when I saute vegetables, I just like to keep an eye on my calories. So I just don't just take the olive oil, even though it's a healthy oil, and just start dumping it in the frying pan, or like if I'm frying up some eggs or sauteing some vegetables. I like to measure a tablespoon, 136 calories. You know, people get so many calories from things like that. And I talked about this a couple of live streams ago. I read a study one time, this is years ago, like 10 years ago, saying that most women get more than 50% of their calories from salad dressing. Because women eat a lot of salads, they're always concerned about their weight. Everyone's concerned about their weight, though, not just women. And it's interesting. I mean, you're eating like a healthy, relatively low-calorie salad. The study also talked about how women don't eat enough protein, too. So the salad was like very light in protein. But that most of the calories in the day came from a salad dressing. There's so much calories in those dressings. That's why I like extra virgin olive oil with balsamic vinegar. Plus balsamic vinegar, just like apple cider vinegar and all vinegar, is high in acidic acid, which helps control blood sugar. Like kind of like slows digestion. There's some good research on that. So there is something to that apple cider vinegar before meals, and even just using balsamic vinegar, you know, on your salads, which is really good. And even I think Dr. Stephen Gundry, he's the guy that wrote those books, The Plant Paradox. I thought it was a good book. You know, he's the guy that does that. He doesn't want you eating lectins, like, you know, those proteins that kind of upset your stomach, you know, lead to autoimmune type issues. So he doesn't like nightshades, like the seeds of tomatoes or eggplants, you know, gluten's a lectin. So yeah, he's actually a big believer in I think I lost my whole track. And putting balsamic vinegar in like mineral water, like a Pellegrino, and drinking that instead of soda, which is actually a good thing. I think it's good. I tried it. I think it tastes pretty good, especially with like a little bit of like a lemon or lime in it. But I take a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar a lot before meals in some Pellegrino. Let's see. No, that sounds like a nice weight, Vito. You know, 130. So I don't know if you want to lose weight. Maybe you're the ideal weight. But if you want to lose weight, you know, maybe 1,300 calories, 1,400 calories a day, you probably do really good. You know, but I'm sure at 130 you have very little weight to lose if you want to lose weight. Well, let's see. Okay, okay. This is the big thing. This was like the video that I did a few days ago. Actually, did pretty good. You know, people really liked it. And I found like it's like I don't know, I call it like a hidden secret because I want to create curiosity in the title. But the protein calorie ratio really is an important thing. When you look at protein, that's why even though I do eat a higher protein and I do like animal meats, I don't recommend those fatty cuts of meat like a brisket or a pastrami or something like that, because the protein to calorie ratio isn't good. When you choose protein, you want to choose protein sources that have a high percentage while being low in calories. And in the video I gave an example, which is an incredible example. It's probably one of the highest protein to ratio foods you can eat would be a plain 0% fat Greek yogurt. Even though I personally generally go with the 5% full fat, because, you know, as long as unless I'm really watching calories. So a Greek yogurt is only 80 calories with 16 grams of protein, 4 calories per gram. Let me see. So 16 times 4. So out of those 80 calories, 64 calories are protein. That Greek yogurt has such an incredible calorie to protein ratio. Where if you compare that to something like a rice and beans or something like that, I mean, the calories are so high for the amount of protein you're getting. That's why it's really hard, in my opinion, for vegetarians and vegans to take in enough protein. But maybe some people are vegetarians and vegans because they believe in more of a low protein diet. They're concerned about mTOR, growth, constant growth signaling. I'm not as concerned about that. Plus, I think there's a delicate balance. You want to cycle in and out of mTOR. That's why I like fasting so much, because when I'm fasting for 16 hours, like today I'm doing OMAD, I'm really down regulating mTOR, mTOR, I'm increasing autophagy, AMPK, all the good stuff like that. But there's a philosophy that I'm a big believer in, which kind of like coincides with the protein to calorie ratio. It's called the protein leverage hypothesis. And I should know these guys' names because I really should know. I have to write them down because they're the people who, I think they're based out of New Zealand or Australia. I think New Zealand. And they kind of looked at the diet, and their hypothesis was that you're going to keep on eating throughout the day until you reach your protein requirement for the day. You know, meaning that if you're not taking in enough protein, if you're taking in like low percentage protein foods, like say you get eating a lot of grains and you're eating like the rice and beans, you're eating quinoa, you're eating things that on a calorie to protein ratio are very low, you're going to keep on eating. So let's say let's see for me, my ideal amount of protein is 150 grams. If I wasn't eating like, you know, lean cuts of meat, if I wasn't eating like the Greek yogurt, if I wasn't eating eggs, and I was trying to get to 150 grams of protein, whether I'm conscious of it or not, I'd have to take in so many calories to hit 150 grams of protein. So one of the big keys, this is probably the biggest takeaway from this live stream. You want to eat that high amount of protein or that adequate amount of protein, but you don't want to take in that many calories doing it. You really don't, you know. So try to choose foods. That's why I say, you know, just an 8-ounce piece of lean, you know, 8-ounce piece of flounder. So it's not even like salmon. The protein to calorie ratio is so good because the calories are so low for the amount of protein you're getting. Like chicken breast, lean meats. You know, you're going to see some of my example of the meals is like bison chili. When I make this buffalo chili, I love it. I make it all the time. You know, when you saute like the chopped meat, but this is buffalo meat, like no oil even comes out, no fat even comes out of the meat. If I just did normal chopped meat, you know, there's tons of oil coming out of it. You want to get your protein without taking in too many calories. That's the key component to, I think, maintaining an optimal weight and, you know, just if you want to lose weight. Let's see. Okay. Hi, doctor. Oh, first of all, I'm not a doctor, so I just want to make clear. You know, I'm a fitness trainer. Like I said, I'm certified by the American College of Sports Medicine. I'm a physiologist. Plus, I like my school background is, you know, I went to undergraduate school, graduated, and then I was gonna be actually become a chiropractor. It's so funny. This is like 40 years ago. So then I went back to school and I did that whole pre-med thing, you know, and I actually went to 4 different schools because I think I was living with a gal and whatever. I was, oh no, maybe I was living with my wife at that point. And I went back to school and I went to like, oh my God, I went to like 4 different colleges, did that whole undergraduate thing to potentially go to chiropractic school. And then my personal training business just exploded. Back then, you know, in the late 80s, early 90s, there just weren't enough personal trainers out there, especially in New York. Like personal training came to New York and LA. In the U.S., you know, pretty much at the same time. There was so much business, so few trainers that I just stopped. I would have liked to have done it though, maybe. Okay. Hi, doctor. I wanted to ask you why I gained weight on keto. That's gonna be a good question. Why gain weight on keto when doing alternate day fasting? 𝘾𝙊𝘼𝘾𝙃𝙄𝙉𝙂. Thank you. It's interesting. I did a great video on this. I love the video. It didn't do well because maybe it was kind of complicated, but there's something some people call like the fat flux. It really comes to calories. Like you can be in ketosis, you know, when the liver is burning that body fat turning into ketone. But if you're taking in too many calories, you're still not going to lose weight. Even if you're doing alternate day fasting, even if you aren't doing like a ketogenic diet, you really can't. And that's essentially because that's one of the only ways, in my opinion, when you're doing alternate day fasting, where you can eat too much, because you can take in a ton of calories with fat. So even if you're eating every other day, you might be taking in an enormous amount of calories in. What I would recommend too, maybe you're taking in 4,500, 5,000 calories doing that 12-hour eating window. So the traditional way of doing alternate day fasting is you fast for 36 hours, you give yourself a 12-hour eating window. So it's like doing a 24-hour fast with like a 16-8. You can look at it like that, something like that, or a 12-12. And it's hard to take in a lot of calories for most people when they do alternate day fasting, so they lose a ton of weight doing an aggressive calorie deficit. But if you're doing more of a ketogenic type diet, plus if you're really doing ketogenic, you're probably doing relatively lower protein, you can be taking in an insane amount of calories within that 12-hour eating window, even if you're doing 𝘾𝙊, for sure. So there are a couple of things I would do. First of all, I think a ketogenic diet is a good thing to do. First off, like I was talking about earlier, if you have metabolic disease, like if you're type 2 diabetic, if you're obese, you know, if you have high cholesterol, if you have all those things like metabolic syndrome, I think it is a good way. Even like that's why I like fasting. That's even why I like maybe some of those extended fast. And I think going into ketosis, you know, for a few weeks is actually a really good thing to do. It can kind of fix your metabolism, kind of reverse a lot of these things. But it's not something that I would do long term. And if you have good metabolic health, I don't think you really have to do it. I used to dip into ketosis all the time, from time to time. So what I would recommend to you, a couple things. First of all, like again, I would track everything. If you want to stay in this ketogenic diet or do the 𝘾𝙊𝘾𝙃𝙄𝙉𝙂 and you're not losing weight, you should be. Either you might want to take a diet break because, you know, maybe you've been doing it for too long and you're just malnourished and this and that. Who knows what's going on with you nutrient-wise. Or you just want to track everything. And maybe you're just taking in too many calories, even when you're doing 𝘾𝙊𝘾𝙃𝙄𝙉, even when you're doing. It can happen. Most people eat less, but it could be that. And I find too that you definitely get protein deficient when you're doing the ketogenic diet and stuff. Even 𝘾𝙊𝘾𝙃𝙄𝙉, it's hard to take in enough protein. If you're just doing it for a couple of weeks, no big deal. It's probably a great thing. But if you've been doing it for months and you can't lose weight, or maybe initially you lost weight then you stopped, I would reevaluate everything. Track everything, protein, fats, carbs, calories, see where you're at, and then make adjustments. I hope that was helpful. I don't mean to like discourage you. It's a big accomplishment to get into ketosis and stay on a ketogenic diet, and I think it is really useful. You know, but maybe more of a short-term diet thing. You know who's a great guy you should follow is, what's his name, 𝘾𝙊𝘾𝙃𝙄𝙉𝙂. He has that keto club. He's great. I love all his content. Check him out. I'm sure you're familiar with him if you're a keto guy, but he'll talk about this too. You know, he calls it like keto flexing, where you go in and out of ketosis, and he's like an expert on the ketogenic diet, much more than I am. So I would definitely check out all this content. He puts out an incredible amount of content, and I like everything he says. He's a really good speaker too. He's a really nice guy. He follows me a little bit too. Okay, this is Rita. Rita weighs 130 pounds, BMI 22.8. I think that's pretty good. Body fat 28.9. I work out 6 days a week. Resistance strength, Peloton, well, nice 4 days. Usually eat about 1,500 calories a day. Can't bring body fat down. I'm size 4. How do I bring body fat down to 18%? I don't think you have to go that low, Rita. And first of all, I know I'm sure maybe you're using an Apple Watch or a Fitbit or something. It's really hard to even know how accurate those numbers are. But like I said, maybe they are consistently inaccurate. At least you have a nice baseline. So whatever you're using to measure, you want to see improvements in those numbers. 18% I think is really low. You'd be surprised. I'm pretty lean, and you can see like my six pack a little bit. You can see even with my arms that I'm pretty on the lean side. I'm only about 12% body fat. Women should be 5-6% body fat higher. 18 is pretty low. Not that you can't do it. Okay, a couple of things. So one, you're eating 1,500 calories a day. I'm assuming you're eating enough protein too. So at 130, let's see, let's do your protein at 130 times, let's say 0.7, 90. I wouldn't want you to go below 100, even though it's saying 91. I'd want you to eat a minimum of 100 grams of protein a day. I definitely would do that. You're working out a lot, 1,500 calories. Let's see, you bring your body fat down. I mean, you could be a little bit more aggressive. I don't want you to be too hungry or anything. You can go like 15, 12, 15, 12, 15, 12 and start doing that. But when you go to 1,200 calories, I wouldn't cut back on your protein at all. So 400 calories of the 12 have to be protein. I would probably put you more on that, like 30-30. Let's do it right now, 30-30, 40. So let's say you took 100 grams of protein, which is 400 calories, right? And then you ate 100 grams of carbohydrates. That's going to put you at 800 calories. So on your low calorie day, maybe you keep everything even. So you go 4-4-4. Then you do 400 calories of fat. On the days you go 1,500 calories, I would probably still go 4-4 protein, carbs, and then go 600 calories of fat and track everything. And I also love too 100 grams of protein. Yes, I use a weight scale. Yeah, you're using electrical impedance. It's pretty inaccurate. Like, it's probably really inaccurate, but it's maybe consistently inaccurate. But I would do this too. If you use it, a lot of it has to do with hydration, because like water is a conductor of electricity within the muscle. It goes by like the speed in which you step on your right foot, the left foot on the scale. Your feet have to even be dry and clean. I'm sure your feet are clean, but you know what I mean. Even if you jump out of the shower and then jump on that, it's going to give you a different reading. You probably want to do it at the same time. Like, pick a day during the week, or if I don't know if you weigh yourself every day, same time, same day, same situation. Like, you go to the bathroom, you drink a glass of water, you wait a half hour, then you get on the scale. To try to increase how accurate it is. But I probably would do that. So you're going to do 1,200 calories one day, maybe 1,500 the next day with all the eating. Make sure you eat 100 grams of protein a day. I bet you'll start losing. Unless you've been doing this 1,500 calories, which should be a deficit for you because you're working out so much, and you've been doing it for months on end, and you just maybe you get a little bit of an over-exaggeration of metabolic adaptation. You look really healthy. You sound like you're really healthy, though, so I'm assuming your thyroid is good, you're going to a doctor, all your blood work is good, there's nothing going on. The other factors could be, I'm hoping you're sleeping at least 7.5 hours a night. That's key. Because if you're not, even if you're only sleeping 6 or 5.5, it messes up your whole metabolism. It messes with your circadian rhythm. It increases cortisol levels, the stress hormone. When cortisol levels are going up, it releases carbohydrate. You can become insulin resistant just from poor sleep and just having, higher elevated cortisol levels. Plus the hunger hormones get all messed up when you're not sleeping well. The other thing is, I don't know if you're stressed at all, if there's a lot of stress in your life at this time in your life right now, that could also affect everything too. Like I say all the time too, I'd love you to be out, getting outside, getting the sunlight, getting the vitamin D, things like that. But I know you're always showing up and you're looking, I'm sure you're really healthy. You're so right on the scale measurement. Yeah, that scale, it used to frustrate me, that scale. Because I would get on that scale sometimes and I'd be down to 8% body fat. Then 2 weeks later, it would say I'm 12%. It's a little annoying. I would, in your case, I would probably go by like a pair of jeans that just fit just right, or maybe just a teeny bit tight, and go by that. And now you can take even measurements, I think, are a good thing. But I don't want to I'm a little neurotic, and I don't want to make people really neurotic, with it. So, but even, I don't really think, I bet you're not 28, 29%. I'm sure you're less. And 18 may be overreaching. Just go by how you look and feel. You probably drop 2-3 pounds of body fat, and you're going to just like, oh my God, you're probably going to love how you look and feel, I'm sure. Yeah, 7-8 hours is pretty good. Blood work good, sleeping 7-8 hours. I feel I'm eating too much. So why don't you try 1200 then? And you don't even have to cycle. I mean, if you want to just stay at 1200, 300 calories is in your case, since you're only eating 15, is a 20% decrease in calories. I mean, that's a lot. I mean, you can go to like 13, maybe 13, my 1350. You know, little changes, 100, 200 calories can make a big difference. You know, when you're only talking about 1500 calories a day. But you really, you know, and this is why like bodybuilders and physique athletes do so well. First of all, they're incredibly motivated. They, you know, they ignore hunger. They're going to be on stage, and but they track everything. You know, I used to train bodybuilders early on, before I had my own gym in one of those big box gyms. There were these local bodybuilding shows like a Mr. Westchester, or all these little shows. They were like natural shows. You know, there were shows too, when guys are taking drugs, but I work with some natural bodybuilding guys. And we used to, like our guru, a guy I followed, he's still around now, I think. He used to write articles for Muscle and Fitness. He was a lawyer, but he was a fitness enthusiast. He was like an over 40 Mr. Olympia. And his name is Clarence Bass. I hope he's still alive. I'm going to look him up maybe after this. He was such a good guy. And he wrote one of the first books that was called Ripped. And there's a picture of him on the cover at 2.4% body fat that he obtained. And his whole thing, he was a little more carbs back then, more of a traditional bodybuilding diet, but his whole thing was tracking everything. It all comes down, like, you weigh all your food. He would say, you eat one M&M, I want you to write it in your journal, because that one M&M is 10 calories. You know, it's really, that's why when it comes to the general population, it's so difficult consistently counting and tracking calories. That's why Dr. Jason Fung will say, you know, counting calories is a waste of time, doesn't work. Yes, I know he's into the whole hormonal end, and I believe in all that hormonal, like the low insulin levels, and when insulin is high, right, it's hard to, burn body fat. You kind of like locking the door, the fat cells. But, you know, it's just hard to do, but you can do it. You know, you just have to do it when it comes to counting calories. And once you start doing it regularly, first of all, I've been doing it on and off my whole life. I can pretty much look at my plate of food and be within 100 calories, kind of know what I'm eating. Like when I buy my chicken, when I buy my meat, like when I make my buffalo chili, I make 3 pounds of chili. So I know that every 8 ounces is 50 grams of protein. So I kind of say, you know, how many servings do I have in this big pot of chili? So when I'm taking, I know I'm getting 50 grams. You know, if I do like my the cup of chili, I know. So when it comes to buying your meats and all that, and you know, an egg is 6-7 grams. You know, Greek yogurt is 15. You got to start tracking everything, and then once you do it for a while, you probably won't have to do it that often. Or maybe like I say, it's not good to be in a calorie deficit too long. So maybe Rita hits her goal weight, loses a few pounds of body fat, stops tracking everything for like a quarter, for 3 months, right? And maybe she gains back a pound or so. Maybe she starts tracking everything again. You know, that's an easier way to live without driving yourself crazy. But generally, when you talk to bodybuilders, physique athletes, they're weighing their foods. They're tracking every morsel of their food, just like Clarence Bass said. He stayed at 2.4% body fat like for years on end. I don't even think that's healthy, but he did. He used to do an interesting thing too. Like once a year, he would go to the Cooper's Clinic, you know, maybe once every other year, and have this full medical evaluation. It was great. And he used to talk about his training routines and how he would prepare for the Submax test. And he's a really interesting guy. I loved all his books. I know he got a little sick later in his life. I think he had like a hip replacement, and he had like prostate issues, things like that. And then I stopped following him. But I'm going to look him up after this. He really was a good guy. And you would talk to him on the phone. We would do consults with him when no one was doing. This is pre-internet, you know, which is incredible. Okay, so I'm going to drop to 1,200 this week. And that may make it. No, I would do that, Rita. Don't go below 1,200, though. Don't go like 800-900. Because I would feel like that's another general rule. Once you start going below 1,200, it's probably hard to get enough good nutrition, vitamins, mineral nutrients, things like that. But when you're eating 1,200, like you say, Rita, no empty calories. And I think you know that. Eat your proteins, eat your vegetables, have a couple of fruits. Everything's got to count when you get that low. And don't think, maybe just do it. Do it for a couple of weeks and see how you feel. And then maybe you can increase 100 calories here or there, like an extra little bit of something. I need to track. That's key. Yes, definitely. Start tracking. And once you enter all your foods, like in a MyFitnessPal, something like that, they're in there. It's so easy to do. I think now you have to pay, though, if you want to use the barcoding, with MyFitnessPal. In my 12-week coaching program, I have my own app that's incredible. It's like MyFitnessPal. I think it's much better. And you can actually, there's a button where you hit it's called Discovery Foods. Like say you're having a meal that's like 700 calories with like 40 grams of protein, whatever. You don't like the meal, you hit a button, it gives you another meal. It's kind of cool. I don't think MyFitnessPal has that. It might. Let's see. Okay, so we got this protein leverage hypothesis. Okay, so let's talk about meal structure. This is good for everybody here. Okay, so meals. This is how I think you should structure your meals. And it really comes down to everything I'm saying. The first thing you always want to think about, and then after this slide, I'm going to give you like just a ton of examples of meals like I've been eating over the last year or so. You know, the whole thing is first thing protein. You want to prioritize protein. So whenever you're eating, even when you're snacking, think about protein first. And let me say, every ounce of animal protein is about 50 grams, and egg is 6, Greek yogurt is 15. So first you want a nice piece of protein. You'll see in all the pictures I'm going to show you next. Hey, Gwen is here. Hey, Gwen, how we doing? Thanks for showing up. That's good. Let's see. Let's answer this question first, okay? Can I switch from keto to normal diet? I think you can, and I think you should. I've been doing it for almost 2 years. I think you definitely should. Or I can stop OMAD and switch to 18.6 for the weight loss possibly. So no, you're not bothering me at all. I would switch. If you've been doing keto for 2 years, I mean, if you want to, show up to a live stream of 𝘾𝙊𝘾𝙃𝙄𝙉 and see what he says, I think he would tell you the same thing. I think 2 years is a really, really long time to be on a ketogenic type diet. You might be protein deficient. I mean, unless you've been doing it on a little bit less of a traditional keto, a little bit more of a higher protein keto, and still getting into ketosis, which you can do, but it's not easy. I would switch you definitely to more of a normal diet, and I mean more like a normal diet, like exactly what I'm talking about here. Ease into it though, let your digestive system get used to it. Maybe not jump into that much protein initially, but I would eat exactly what I'm talking about here, and you can stick to like an 18.6 or a 16.8 and see how you do. Start tracking everything, see where you are calories wise. But I bet you're missing protein, vitamins, minerals, and nutrients doing ketogenic for 2 years. That's what I would do. But I would run it by 𝘾𝙊𝘾𝙃𝙄𝙉 too and see what he thinks. Thanks so much for all your advice. Oh no, thanks Rita. Thanks for showing up. Is carnivore a good diet for getting enough protein? Oh, definitely good for getting enough protein. You're pretty much just eating protein and fat. Gwen, it's not a bad thing if you want to try it. I don't really like it long term, similar to the ketogenic diet. I think it's a great thing to do as a short-term thing because you deplete a lot of glycogen stores. You're going to lose a lot of water weight instantly. You're going to lose your carbohydrate cravings. But even Paul Saladino, who's him and I think it's Robert Baker, the other doctor, those are the two most famous ketogenic type guys. They both wrote books. They have tremendous followers. I think Paul Saladino's got millions of followers. I like all this content too. He did a strict ketogenic diet for maybe 2 years, and then he personally started having electrolyte issues because he feels he should have carbohydrates. So he started eating a good amount of fruit. So he eats animal protein and he eats food. He's into yogurt and meats because liver is really good for you, brain, heart, all that stuff. Liver's high in vitamin C. He had autoimmune. I don't know if he had autoimmune things, but he had like skin issues like eczema that went away from the carnivore diet. I do think it is a good thing as an elimination diet. It's great. But for you, Gwen, if you wanted to try it, I think you'll do great. I fooled around with it. I've done it for a couple of weeks here and there. When I did it, though, I never 100% did just meat. I did I would eat animal protein. I hate to miss my avocado because I eat one every day and I want the fiber. These guys don't even think you need fiber, like a Paul Saladino. He'll make a great argument. He's smarter than me. He's got so much medical background than me. I could not debate him. He thinks you don't need fiber in your diet. I think you do. I think it's really satisfying. I think it's a good thing to do. To take in fiber, but that's not a bad thing for you to try, Gwen, at least for a week. Do it for 2 weeks, see how you feel. And you can do it with animal protein and maybe just an avocado, or animal protein and maybe just some berries, something like that. So this is the meal structure. Always think protein first. So the first thing I do, what I recommend people, when they're making lunch, dinner, even breakfast, is first think about protein. So say you want your 50 grams. You have an 8-ounce piece of chicken, fish, meat, whatever you're having, a lean cut. That's 50 grams there. You're going to pick up some other grams of protein from the vegetables. Then go with 2 different colored vegetables or fruits. So for example, if you have an avocado, which is a fruit, but to me it's almost like a vegetable. It's like a green. Then you may want to do a different color, just a different vegetable. For lunch, I eat those arugula salads all the time. Animal protein, I go about 9 ounces. I want 65 grams, 10 ounces. Then I'll throw in a handful of blueberries. Got my blue fruit. There's the polyphenols, the flavonoid, things like that. Avocado is the green. A little bit of EVOO. I mean, this is how you want to eat. Protein, 2 different colored vegetables. And to me, I minimize the grains, the rice, the pasta, the breads, the things like that. I like sweet potatoes now and then. I think sweet potatoes is fine. I wouldn't eat it every day, but I do love them. Just because there's so many empty calories there. There's just not that much nutrition, and I'm always keeping an eye on calories. That's why at 61, I maintain pretty much an optimal weight without really trying too hard. I'm not really hungry. For me to get really down, to look like a guy in a magazine, for me to get on the cover of Men's Fitness, then I would just do more extreme things, But I stay around 10, 12% body fat without trying too hard. Eating like this, I cycle up and down. Today's my 𝘾𝐼𝑃 day, my low calorie day. Which actually keeps my calories in line for the whole week. And that's another thing. I don't want you to go too far, Rita. But you could throw in a day like that too, Rita. Meaning that, look at your calories not day to day. You can look at it month to month or week to week. And you can be, like, say you think 1,200 is just too, you're just hungry. You just can't do 12 every day. Now, you can do like 14 every day. And then like pick one day during the week where you have kind of a tough day. You know what I mean? Like one day of the week you do an 𝘾𝐼𝑃 and you go really low. Or one day of the week you do a 24 where you fast for 20 hours, have 2 smaller meals with a far eating window. That's another thing you can try too, Rita. But I don't want to give you confuse you too much. Which I kind of like that too, because I don't mind having one difficult day, because I know the next day I'm not going to overdo it. I guess you have to know your personality type. If you're the type that if you just have like a very low calorie day, like say you do an 𝘾𝐼𝑃 one day, and then you wake up the next day and you're just like, oh my God, I can't wait to eat, and you just overeat, then it's not for you. I don't do that. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes people make with with weight loss, in that they have one bad day and they say, oh my God, I ate bad today. What am I doing? I'm just going to keep on eating bad, just because I have one bad day. They have 2 good weeks, one bad day throws them off. I had this client. She's doing really good now with her weight, but I trained her for like 20 years. I'm not at 15 years, let's say. Always struggle, and we realized that the only time she would ever lose weight is when she had a big event coming up, like a wedding, or like, one of the kids was getting bar mitzvahed or something like that, and she would like eat really good and just lose like 25, 30 pounds. And then the day of the event, like the day of the wedding or the day of the bar mitzvah, she would go off the diet, and that was it. Then she gained all the way back over the next 6 months. So a big key, I think, to like managing your weight and maintaining optimal weight, that if you have a bad day, if you have a bad meal, it doesn't mean you're going to keep on eating bad. And so many people do. It's a hard thing to break, especially when you wake up the next day, just from the water weight, you could be 3-4 pounds heavier from the sodium and the water that you ate that day. And then you get so discouraged, you say, I'm just going to eat bad. This diet stuff doesn't work for me. You got to just go right back into your normal, good, healthy eating. Okay, so let's go over now a whole bunch of meals. I got a whole bunch of meals here. If you show up every week, you've probably seen these meals before, but this is in the basic structure I'm talking about. This is my, I like to call it my famous homemade buffalo chili. To me, this is a perfect meal. I must have, I do this on 𝘾𝐼𝑃 days a lot. This is like something I would do like on a Sunday. So I bet I have, I don't know because I don't remember, but I bet I have a pound or close to. This is a tremendous bowl, so it's hard to say. I bet I'm close to, I'm probably about 12 ounces of buffalo bison, which is really, really lean. So I'm probably getting 75 grams of protein right there. When I make my buffalo chili, I go very low on the beans because I don't want too many carbs. So I think the recipe actually calls for 2 cans of beans because it's 3 pounds of bison. I put half of 1 can. I do really heavy on the peppers. I use 7 peppers. I use 2 onions. So this is just pretty much protein with a little bit of fiber from the onion and from the pepper. And then I always want to get my fiber, and I want those healthy monounsaturated fats, because this chili is like actually a low fat. So this has a very high protein to calorie ratio. Like lean bison is a great protein to calorie ratio, especially if you drain out the little bit of fat that comes out of it, which I do. First I cook the chopped meat, I drain everything. This is the bison meat, I drain everything. Then I throw it in. And then I have an avocado, which I eat one every single day, and some blueberries. It's kind of cool just to accent the avocado with blueberries. I eat it with a spoon. Tastes great. This is a great meal structure. High fiber, high protein, relatively low in calories. People say, oh my God, avocado's high in calories. 350. But for the nutrition in an avocado, I don't think you can beat it. I think it's a great way to have 350 calories. Incredibly satisfying, high in fiber. 900,000 milligrams of potassium in an avocado. I think this is a great meal right here. And I'm not sure what this comes in, maybe 850 calories, something like that. This is another, I lean a little bit towards pescatarian. This one I'm talking about super, super healthy eating too. The base is an arugula salad, right? I want my protein. I got 1 can of sardines, 21 grams of protein, high in those omega-3 fatty acids, right? This actually comes, the sardines that I buy brand is Henry and Lisa's, and I buy the ones that are packed in extra virgin olive oil. So when I'm having a salad with sardines like that, I don't even add EVOO because I want to keep an eye on calories. I'll just sprinkle on maybe a little bit of balsamic vinegar. Then I also have, I'm not sure how much is, but if I know I want about 65 grams of protein, so I bet that's about 8 ounces of shrimp there. You boil them up. You know, I buy the Gulf shrimp, which is like the wild caught shrimp, and even I think the regular shrimp, I think is totally fine. You boil them up in 2 minutes. Then I just threw some blueberries and raspberries with an avocado. I mean, you can't eat better than this. This is how you should structure your meals. Protein, couple of different vegetables, maybe some low sugar fruits, a little bit of EVO, balsamic vinegar. And obviously, for someone like Rita, who's more petite gal, you know, she doesn't need this much protein. You just low on the portion size. This is 100 grams of arugula, which is almost the whole container of the small containers. They're 150 grams. I go about 100. So I take a 3/4 handful. I throw it in. So in my mind, I'm almost weighing my food without really weighing it, because I know what the can of sardines are. I know when I buy a pound of shrimp, you know, which is, what's that? That's 16 ounces. That's like 200 grams of protein. So if I go with half, no, that's 100 grams of protein. But if I go with half, I know I'm getting 8 ounces of protein. I mean, 8 ounces of protein, 50 grams of protein. So I'm kind of weighing it without actually doing it. The blueberries and the raspberries, you know, 40 calories. The arugula is almost free. Then we got the avocado, which is like 300 depending upon the size, 350 if it's a really big avocado. If I do add extra virgin olive oil, I will measure it to kind of know where I'm at. The balsamic vinegar, I won't even measure. It's almost like no calories at all. Here's another. I eat fish for dinner all the time. I want to give you an example of this is what I ate out. This is my favorite restaurant in the Hamptons. It's called 𝘾𝙊𝘾𝙃𝙄𝙉𝙂. You know, Hamptons is kind of like a popular place to go in New York in the summertime, kind of like a resort. I wouldn't call it a resort area, just kind of an affluent, you know, place to go. It would be like Monte Carlo if you're in Europe or whatever, or the Amalfi Coast or something like that. Capri, you know, would be the Hamptons in New York. This is, I go to this place 𝘾𝙊𝘾𝙃𝙄𝙉𝙂 and I just get flounder, you know. So when you're eating out, I think fish is the best way to go if you like fish, or even just a plain steak or something. So, and they give you so much there. This is well over a pound of flounder right there. Yes, I'm sure the sauce they're putting on top of it is probably not the best, but it's kind of like a butter based, and they may even add a little sugar to it. We get the string beans, the tomato, couple of, see, they give you potatoes, but not too many. This is just a high protein, really healthy way of eating out. So if you're eating out, you know, I always like to say too, if you go into a restaurant, I think we talked about this with Rita one time too. I mean, look at the menu ahead of time and kind of decide what you're going to eat. See, I know I get that every single time I go to 𝘾𝙊𝘾𝙃𝙄𝙉𝙂, so I don't have to look anymore. I always get the flounders locally caught. I know it's great. But generally when you're going out to eat, if you can look at the menu ahead of time and make a decision before you get there, before you have a drink or something, it's going to save you a lot of calories. This is just like a smaller meal prioritizing protein. You know, a few grilled chicken breasts, you know, high protein to calorie ratio. That plate may have been the smaller version. That's probably why I added the 3 hard-boiled eggs, an orange, right? This is just, I mean, some people would call it boring, but most of your meals, unfortunately, I shouldn't even say unfortunately, most of your meals have to be like this. I eat very similar things every day for lunch. Dinner, I mix it up a little bit. I have to start taking more pictures of my dinners. But it's dark, you know, in my house at night, so I try to like pretty much film my lunches. But that's a perfect meal. Here's another one. I think this may have been a dinner. Chicken thighs. These are really big chicken thighs. I know this green plate. This is a big Italian. I think from 𝘾𝙁 from Italy, right? This is a humongous plate. So these 2 chicken thighs are much bigger than they appear here. I just gave myself a couple of potatoes just to make the meal a little bit more satisfying. Got the arugula. I just cut up an apple because it's been apple season, intermittent with some like avocado. Another like perfect meal. Could be a lunch, could be a dinner. Here's just another one of my classic salads. I'm not sure I had this for lunch. Very similar to the shrimp, but this time I think this must have been a leftover piece of I'm not sure if there's a salmon Arctic chard. My wife buys all different, like whatever's wild caught she generally will go for, and maybe it's on sale. So I got my probably 6 to 8 ounces of salmon with another can of sardines, apple, avocado. I've been eating a lot of apples lately because it's just apple season. It's gonna leave New York soon. Get a few more. Here's an example. I did a video on this. It did really, really well. So I fried up 4 pasture-raised eggs, prioritizing protein. I wanted more protein than that because 4 eggs is only maybe 24 grams. I had some leftover salmon again from the night before. Brought the meal right up to like 55, 60 grams. Avocado, apple. You know, I guess I got a lot of apples because there's been so many apple seasons lately. This is another one. So now I had filet mignon. I think I overcooked it a little bit, but it was great. It's not really good to see your meats like that. It's not really as healthy, but it was so good. You know, we got a little filet mignon, some lean meat on top of, once again, I think this may have been, which I've been getting away from spinach because this may have been a arugula spinach combo. I don't know if you can see in this blueberries, orange, avocado. I mean, this is just the best, I think, the best possible meal structure. This is actually a dinner. I see it's kind of darker. Same thing. I'm not sure what type of meat this is. This could be, it looks like salmon, but I think it's something else. It's some type of one of those red meats. I don't think it's Arctic char either. I forget what that's called. Maybe 𝘾𝙊𝘼𝘾𝙃𝙄𝙉. Maybe it's a 𝘾𝙊𝙼 type of a salmon. Same thing, arugula, tomatoes. I try to go with color because color, not only does it look good, it's very appealing. Different vitamins, different minerals, different nutrients. So we got a tomato avocado salad. I mix that up ahead of time sometimes. I'll cut up an avocado, tomatoes, a little bit of EVOO, salt, pepper, just mix it up, pour it on top of the arugula, blueberries. You know, this is my style of eating. This is probably going to be similar. This is a big piece of salmon steak. This was the dinner too. Then we get the red beets. Some beets, people think beets are sugary, but I don't eat them every day, and there's a lot of nutrition in red beets. Same thing, tomato, onion, arugula, really, really big piece. Even though, like salmon may not have as good of a protein to calorie ratio because it's higher in fat, but it's the good healthy fats, the omega-3s. And you want that good ratio of omega-3s to omega-6s. So I eat salmon or sardines like multiple times within a week. Okay, let's close that. So we have this. There's another salmon. This is kind of repetitive. That one's a little repetitive. Oh yeah, I do this sometimes too. I'll buy that like grass-fed, grass-finished chopped meat. You know, I'll just fry up. I should know. See, this is I've been searing my meats less lately. This is probably from maybe like 6 months ago. So I got 2 patties of hamburger patty. You know, that 90% lean, grass-fed, grass-finished meat. I wanted more protein, so I eat a lot of smoked salmon. There's a great smoked salmon store right near my gym in Mount Kisco. Love it. Some olives, right, and some avocado. Just another like perfect lunch or dinner. Okay, I think that was the last one. Yes, so there we go, guys. I hope you like that. So any questions? Any questions before I go? I think we still got a few people left here. And also, not to keep on plugging it, but if you are interested in working with me one-on-one, I got a few spots left of this 12-week elite coaching program. It's really cool. I do these live streams like this with a group of other people, but it's more of it's a Zoom call, so like we get to see each other. You know, we do an onboarding video call. It's a 30-minute video call every single week. You know, I describe the diet, the workout routine for you, and then I literally email or leave you a voice message on your phone every single day. It's a real lot of accountability. I find the people who do the best with it are the people who really, first of all, they believe they can do it, and who are really honest with you. You got to really be honest with me. It's a very non-judgmental type thing. You know, you tell me if things aren't working. You know, I know you're not telling me the truth, meaning that you're not really, like I just had a recent situation with a guy who, he wasn't telling me, he was like embarrassed to say that he was drinking every single night, like having like 3 cocktails every single night. And I was surprised he wasn't doing as well as he would. And then he finally admitted to me like 4 or 5 weeks into the coaching program. He said, yeah, Mike, no, I'm having like 3 drinks a night. And then we kind of, you know, we worked that out. He dramatically cut back and he's doing great now. So the main thing is you got to be really honest with me on it. But it's a financial commitment too to work with me. So just keep that in mind. Okay. Hey Jeff, I got an appointment with a specialist this week. Once I know my medical situation better, I'll know better what questions to ask from him. No, that sounds good, Jeff. Good. Yeah, I know you had the gallbladder type issue, so I'm curious to know how you're doing with that. So I'm glad you're staying on top of it, which is great. That's good. All right, guys. Before I go, any other questions before I go? But I appreciate everyone showing up. It was a lot of fun. I know I haven't been doing these live streams every single Sunday because, you know, people have been booking these coaching calls with me, and, you know, they take like 30, 45 minutes. I've been getting like 2 or 3 a day of these coaching calls. So, you know, to see if people want to join the program, it's a free call. So I haven't been able to have the time to do this. Plus, I've been working. The course also comes with a core curriculum, meaning that similar to my intermittent fasting course, I'm filming a whole bunch of like short videos with like little homework assignments. That's part of the coaching program as well too. Different modules. Like we talk about the protein to calorie ratio in a video in the course, in the coaching program, and we talk about the formula. We talk about everything that I keep on saying over and over and over again, even though I'm working one-on-one with people, I wanted them to have like a core curriculum, a whole bunch of videos, just so they can like reference them over. And it works well with the one-on-one in the group to have these, like I have a whole like library of information along with the coaching. They can, and even once the coaching program ends, you'll still have access to the core curriculum, which is really nice. Let's see any other questions here before we go. Hey Patel, I love those pics of your meals. I will add some apples. Oh, yeah, sounds good. Yeah, because still New York is still apple season. It's almost ending. It's going to end soon. So get those apples in when they're like local and fresh, you know, which is great. All right, guys, I'm going to go. Once again, I appreciate everyone showing up. I don't know if you guys are Jets fans. I'm a Jets fan, so hope the Jets do well. They're playing the Eagles, and that's a really good team. So let's see how that goes. But get outside. I didn't do my walk yet. I'm going to go for my walk right now. Kind of a cold, like breezy day in New York. So get your walk in. If you didn't walk today, as soon as this is over, drink a big glass of water, get your sneakers on, get outside, go take a nice 45-minute walk. But take care, everyone. Hope to see you again next time. Bye-bye.